So now move on to the second part of my presentation, which is talking about particular site proposals which we're seeking your views on in the Western Wards area. Now, if you've had a chance to either have a look at Fairham Today, the local plan, or perhaps the exhibition boards this afternoon, you'll be aware that there's proposals spread across the borough. But if I just focus on the Western Wards area, it's just over 1,000 homes potentially delivered in this area, with two key sites, 700 homes potentially delivered on a site known as North and South of Greenaway Lane in Warsash, and 100 homes at the site of the Warsash Maritime Academy. So those are a couple of sites which I'm going to be talking about in a bit more detail in a second. But first, I would highlight that in this area there are a number of other sort of housing proposals in the plan. Three of those at the top there are all in the current local plan. So the current local plan, which was adopted 2 years ago, and there was a public examination on that, that already has those three sites, Heath Road, Rady Road, and also the Genesis Centre at Lots Heath Centre. Those are in the current local plan. It's proposed that they are rolled forward into this new local plan. But new greenfield proposals, smaller sites, all up at Park Gate. There's three sites there, total of about 60 dwellings, which are totally new proposals, which are also being consulted on as part of the plan. You see the distribution of those there. It's the sort of orange areas, with the existing urban areas shown in grey, and the main highway shown in that sort of mauve colour. So, moving on to the Greenaway Lane site. See, this is, in planning terms, this is technically a greenfield sort of site. Obviously, a significant part of the site is not in active use at the present time. I would stress there's a red line boundary to it, but it's not necessarily the case that the totality of that area would come forward for residential development. There are parts of that site which are not being promoted for development, some of the existing businesses who don't wish to relocate. But the estimate of 700 homes takes account of that. That's what could be potentially delivered in the view of the council on those parts of the site which are being promoted for development. The view is that, certainly compared with other proposals across the borough, it's going to be lower density housing, and the approach to the housing very much sort of dependent on which part of the site we're talking about. So sort of lower story residential properties where you've got things fronting onto Greenaway Lane or Brook Lane in particular. Key issues which any applicants coming forward with proposals for this site or parts of this site will need to take account of. Significant trees which are protected, have tree preservation orders on them, which will need to be addressed in any site designs. There's some significant wildlife issues, so it means that there need to be clear wildlife corridors built into the scheme designs. There's a particular issue as to how does the vehicle sort of movement within the site actually work, particularly given the need for sort of wildlife corridors and the like. Moving on to transport, the primary vehicle accesses into the site would be from Brook Lane on the western side and from Lockswood Road on the eastern side of the site. The number of access points to be determined and the precise location of those access points to be determined. But that would be the overall approach. And obviously important would be pedestrian and cycle connections both through the site but also in particular down to sort of Warsash where there's the existing facilities. So what would the council be looking for as part of the development? I mean obviously the issue of highways is a very significant one the Council is very mindful of, as Councillor Woodward mentioned. So it's certainly be looking to secure contributions towards the delivery of, or may, in actual fact, wholly fund the delivery of improvements to the wider highway network. And there's, I think, a significant issue will be some of the key junctions onto the A27, and that's something where there's already been a lot of work with Hampshire County Council, with the Highway Authority, on, and will continue to be, if the proposal moves forward, there's continue to be further more detailed work on that side of things. In terms of education, obviously in lots of dialogue with the county as the education authority, we're aware of the existing capacity issues, particularly in the primary schools in the area. So it is looking highly likely that if this development were to move forward, that there would be contributions required towards additional education provision, which, for example, to give you a feel, could mean, you know, an additional, you know, one form of entry at one of the primary schools in the area. We would need to work with the education authority on that. It would very much depend on the timing of the development and as to when that is needed and how that's secured. Other things the council may look for, on-site provision, most probably, of sort of what are called locally equipped areas for play. There's the possibility of sort of junior football pitches on the site. That may not materialise. You may have views on that. So it could be that there's instead contributions to pitches elsewhere. There are different options. This is a development framework which the council has already put some effort into, and you'll find it in the back of the local plan. And the reason for that is because this is a compact site. You know, you can't get around that. It's in multiple land ownerships. And what the council is trying to do with this framework is show how a comprehensive, coordinated development could come forward. It's likely to be phased, so it's not to say you wouldn't have phases of development coming forward, but it's trying to ensure that there is some sort of coordination between the different parts of the site. And in particular, the green corridor through there, that's a corridor which can provide a function in terms of provide public open space, it's a wildlife corridor, and also it can provide, you know, a movement corridor down towards Warsash as well. So it could have a number of different functions. You can see there's indicative points as to where the access could be, or the different access points off Brook Lane and off Oxford Road. So that gives you a feel for how the site could potentially be delivered. Moving on to Warsash Maritime Academy, I'm sure many of you will be aware of the rationalisation by Solent University and the fact that in particular sort of cadets no longer resident sort of at the academy, which means that the college is releasing, as it were, the upper part of the site, and that's the site which is suggested as a housing site in the draft local plan. This is a brownfield site, so that would be it's being put forward by the college for housing. The lower part of the site would be retained by Solent University for continue for training purposes. This site quite complicated to develop in actual fact, because often surprises people, but two of the particular blocks of development there are listed. They're sort of 1960s buildings, and they are listed, would need to be retained and reused. That would not be a straightforward exercise, and there are other sort of constraints on the site as well. Primary access off Newtown Road, and again, contributions to be sought towards highways, education, and sort of open space as well. As Councillor Woodward mentioned, the plan is not all about sort of housing. I mentioned some other sort of sites in the Western Wards area, and if anybody has any questions of those, we can come to them later on. But I would just flag that in addition to Daedalus and the employment land that Councillor Woodward mentioned, there is one employment area put forward in the Western Wards area, which is over on the north side of the N27 in Whiteley, and this is the Solent 2 site. It is a site rolled forward from the current local plan, not built out at the present time, so that would be accessed off Rookery Avenue. It's got lots of very valuable woodlands in the vicinity of it, which has to be taken into account in the sort of design approach. And the other key thing, particularly given the proximity of the motorway, noise and air quality assessments would all need to be undertaken.